Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out Mondays, where we tell you what we're into. Start your week off right. I'm Tauri J.
I'm Lex Michael. Tauri,
Yes?
we got to talk about Avengers.
Oh, do we?
I think so.
Oh, I was going to talk about this like small peanut butter that I just started eating. And, oh man, it's so savory. Have you heard of? No. I also want to talk about Avengers Endgame. I think that the way we should do this is we should give slight overall, no spoilers. Then
Yeah, because it's a very tough movie to talk about without getting pretty spoilery pretty fast, especially because they did a pretty amazing job with the marketing as far as not revealing anything whatsoever.
Right.
So if you still haven't seen this movie, and box office estimates are coming in now, it's Sunday as of this recording, 1.2 billion with a B global opening weekend.
Yeah.
So you probably saw it already. Most likely, statistically, more of us saw it than didn't this weekend.
Yeah.
But if you didn't get a chance to check it out, if you were one of the people who couldn't make it through the onslaught when everything was crashing trying to get tickets, yes, we're going to try and tread as lightly as we can up top, but pretty quickly going to delve into stuff that maybe you don't want to know going in.
Yeah, and we'll let you know when the tide turns or when the spoiler curtain comes down and you can't see our naughty bits.
Yes, and we will figure out the best way to tackle this, right? Because I feel like we could do 2 hours on this movie and we still might not hit everything there is to talk about, but we ain't got that kind of time today. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if you heard this, somebody mentioned that there might be some fisticuffs in Winterfell. And I want to sit on a comfortable perch at a reasonable distance and watch that shit go down.
Yeah, of course. But don't sit on the wall because it's already taken down. Spoilers for Game of Thrones.
That's like year-old spoilers, though. So that's on you if you don't know this.
I think that once we give our overall, we'll just talk about our favorite things. And
all right, you got 3 hours to do that?
No, but our top top three.
Oh, I could be concise. I don't know if I'll be brief, but I'll do my best. If you haven't guessed, I was very happy with this movie.
Did you like it?
I was very happy with this movie.
So what is your overall thought?
Holy shit.
Okay.
They did it. You know what I mean? Seriously, this is an impossible movie.
Right.
I was sitting there watching it in the theater, and the whole time, this is impossible. This cannot possibly exist. It literally does. I'm sitting here in a theater watching it, and I'm still in total disbelief that this movie exists.
Yeah.
They did something unprecedented in cinema history, and something that I think it's incredibly unlikely anything like this is ever going to happen again.
Yeah.
And as far as concluding an 11-year, 22-movie saga, right now what Kevin Feige has now told us is going to be referred to as the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
I cannot possibly imagine a version of this movie that sticks the landing harder.
Right.
And I cried a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Cheered, laughed a whole bunch. I saw it. I did brave the ticket onslaught. I saw the movie. I've seen it twice.
Okay.
Now. And both times I saw it at LA Live, because that's the Regal portal was one of the only ones I could find that wasn't crashing super hard.
Yeah.
I lucked into great tickets, like center of the theaters. The first time I went and saw it was on that Thursday. First show that I could. It was 6:30 p.m. show in their big kind of premium format, large screen theater at LA Live. Saw it with, I cannot imagine a better, more engaged audience to see it with. I've literally never heard that much spontaneous applause in a movie theater before.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic experience. I don't want to speak for you, Tauri, but I feel like there's some overlap here. These movies mean a huge amount to me, just like they mean a huge amount to a great many people.
Yeah.
And seeing it conclude the way it did and pay off so many different things from 11 years worth of storytelling. I thought it was incredible. I thought the way that they chose to resolve certain characters' arcs was amazing, and things that even if it occurred to me as a possibility, I would never have thought they'd actually do. Like, they'd never have that level of audacity. But of course, as always, you're wrong to underestimate Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. This thing was incredible.
Yeah. I agree. I think that like everything that you said, and I think that the scope of the movie as a whole, it spans from the beginning of the saga through the end, and it pays off so many different characters' story arcs that they've been keeping over the course of different movies. It also helps to expand the world itself, which gives a lot of the other branching upcoming series room to play with. And it also, in addition to being super emotionally charged and driven, it's a funny ass movie,
it's
man.
Very, very funny. And they are able to, and we can talk more specifically when we talk spoilers, they're able to, in a single scene, pivot from comedy to tragedy and back again.
Yeah.
And these actors, one actor in particular, and the way the character is handled, there's almost nobody in the business performance-wise who can move from one to the other so fluidly moment to moment.
Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But yeah.
Because it's impossible to talk about without spoiling certain things.
Right. So those are our overall thoughts. As you might have guessed, we liked it. And
also,
so,
this thing, by the way, this is a 3-hour movie, and a lot of people, of course, you see that runtime, it's like, oh, that's long. Is this going to be arduous? Even if I like it, is this going to feel like a really painful sit for 3 hours? You know, but I don't know about you, but to me, this thing is paced insanely well. This thing does not. This is the fastest goddamn 3 hours of my life.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not gonna lie, I had a giant headache the whole time, but it was still worth it. Not because of the movie, just because I went to a 9 a.m. showing, and my body hadn't settled into existing yet.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to process it at that point.
Yeah, it was tough.
Oh, I guess one other thing I can say without delving into anything spoiler related, because it's not specifically about something in the movie. Second time I saw it,
Yeah.
I saw it also at the Regal at LA Live, but I saw it in 4DX, which
Okay.
I've never done before.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I'm glad that I didn't see it that way for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I would have been able to get as fully emotionally engaged. Plus, I wouldn't have seen it with that amazing audience.
Yeah.
But 4DX, have you ever done 4DX?
No.
Super fun. They're not a huge number of locations, but the first one in the country, I believe, is the one at LA Live. It was the first one. I believe there are more now. That's how first works. Fun. But it's a super cool thing. There's the seats move around a whole bunch. So in action scenes, for example, you'll be kind of thrown around a little bit. There are effects, like environmental effects of very light rain effects or wind or fog. There's a lot of lights, and it corresponds to the movie, which of course is in 3D as well. Very, very, very fun. But again, I'm glad I didn't see it that way the first time, because I wouldn't trade that experience that I had for anything.
Yeah, I get that. So now we're going to drop down that spoiler wall. So if you haven't seen it, make sure that you go see it before listening to anything that we're about to say. So the curtain is slowly closing, and we're allowing you the time to turn this off if you need to, or go walk and get a sandwich and then watch the movie for the next 3 hours and come back. So, all right, cool. So the spoiler wall is down. So what would you say were your like top moments, or what would you say are the things that you enjoyed most about the movie?
I mean, most broadly was that it was constantly surprising me.
Yeah.
You know, the structure is really interesting. Most of the first hour is about dealing with the fallout of Infinity War and trying to reassemble the team. Most of the second hour, you get this amazing, big, long sequence of Marvel greatest hits, essentially, as they Back to the Future 2 their way through their own timelines. And then you get this final hour, which is the most incredible fucking battle that you will see in fucking any movie, maybe. Yeah. If we're talking about favorite moments, right? I mean, one, of course, stands above all others. It's the moment that I've been waiting for 10 fucking years. And it's that moment where Captain America finally says, Avengers Assemble. And everybody, every hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all of their armies charge at Thanos and his. I have never, I swear to you, it's not, I get that it's a bit of a hyperbolic statement, but believe me when I say I have never had a moment like that in a movie theater.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to have one again. I was just covered in fucking happy tears, and I felt like I was going to hyperventilate the entire time because I was so blown away by what I was seeing and so goddamn happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the top moments were a lot of the quieter, like, person-to-person moments. So especially the ones that, because this movie is essentially the previous guard passing the torch to the next generation.
Yes.
We get two specific examples of characters talking to their parents.
Yes.
And essentially asking, like, how do you do it? How do you move forward? How do you, like, one, we get Tony talking to his dad about becoming a father and passing on and raising his children.
Right. And Tony, of course, and we get this 5-year time jump after the opening.
Yeah.
And you find out that in those 5 years, Tony has created this life for himself, and he's happy, he's at peace, and he has a daughter. He and Pepper have, I guess she's probably about 5 years old, give or take.
Right.
Named Morgan. So he himself is a relatively new dad.
Right. And then you also get Thor talking to his mom.
Which did you think in a million lifetimes that in a world where they have basically 3 or 4 other Marvel movies to travel back into, that one of them was going to be Thor: The Dark World?
I mean, it did have the most emotional beats in terms of all of the the big Marvel Thor movies. Like, you know, the first one was up its own ass, and then the second one, like, had what?
Oh, do you not like the first Thor?
No one likes the first Thor.
Okay, first Thor is in no way a bad movie. The kiss is
no way?
In no way. The kiss is a bit tone deaf, and that's about it. I don't like. I don't love the moments where Jane basically fawns over him.
Okay.
But other than that, no. When was the last time you watched it? It's a pretty solid movie.
I watched it probably a couple years ago. I think that some of the fish out of water stuff works. This isn't a Thor podcast, so we'll talk about that later. Yes, I think that we get, like, Thor 2 is where we get the most development emotionally for Thor's relationship with his family. Like, 3 and Infinity War is when we get the most development for Thor himself.
Yes.
But in relation to his family, that's when we get the death of his mother. We get him almost kind of reconciling with Loki. Like, those pieces were the best parts of the Thor pre-Ragnarok series.
Absolutely. And I love that we were able to bring Rene Russo back, which I was very surprised by.
Yeah.
Give her more lines, I think, than she had in the 2 Thor movies combined.
That is true.
But we had spent so much time focusing on Thor's relationship with Loki, his brother, and Odin, their father, and we, outside of a couple of shared moments, you don't get too much between Thor and Frigga in either of those movies.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have those pieces there.
Right.
And to have it be his mother who reminds Thor of the importance of being who he is and not who he thinks he's supposed to be. Also, we bring back Natalie Portman for a one shot. Literally one, I believe. Yeah. But speaking of Thor, right? Chris Hemsworth, that's who I was talking about earlier. He slides from comedy to tragedy and back again in moment to moment like nobody else in the business right now.
Yeah.
What they did with the character of Thor in this movie, it felt very much to me like Hemsworth went, I would really appreciate it if I could play yet a different Thor. And it's equal parts hilarious and really sad.
Right.
Because Thor, having lost absolutely everything, so fully blames himself for not going for the head at the end of Infinity War and for that snap. Like, he holds it against himself. Like, this is my failure.
Yeah.
And when they they fucking chop Thanos' head off in the first 10 minutes of this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And they realize it accomplishes nothing because he's already destroyed the stones. There's no way back. And realizing that not only has he failed, but in trying to undo his failure, he's only failed further, and so on. And so in that intervening 5 years, he just goes into a hole and he drinks and he eats and he plays a lot of Fortnite with Korg and Meek. But when you find him, right, when Rocket and Hulk go to recruit him from New Asgard, you discover really quickly not just that he's let himself go physically, but Thor has severe post-traumatic stress now.
Right.
Like he hears the name Thanos and he breaks.
Yeah.
His story is very sad, but of course, because Hemsworth is so hilarious and Lebowski Thor is such a funny concept, you almost forget in a few moments how crushingly sad Thor's story is up to a point.
Right. There's a little detail that I really like about Lebowski Thor, in that in the 5 years later, it's like a short shot where it's Chris Hemsworth in front of a plate full of bread. And it's like the very beginning of him starting to like sad stress eat.
Yeah.
And I like that little detail because because that shot is in the trailer and someone was like, who just eats a pile of bread? And it's like sad people.
Yeah.
People who like are just trying to eat away that pain. So I like that little detail, but also, yes, I think that he does a really good job of balancing those two things. And it's also really interesting seeing people's reaction to it. I think one, because you're so used to seeing Chris Hemsworth as a beefcake,
Just ripped, yeah.
that I think it's jarring for people. And I think that also some people's like fat prejudice start to come bubbling to the surface, and that like some people I've heard talk about it, they're like, there's just like something about it, like having him be really big, like I don't like it. There's something I don't like about it. And it's like, it's because you associate being fat with like failure, and you associate it with like laziness, and like you can't separate the idea of like why he is the way he is from like your own views of what it is to be fat.
Okay, but in the movie explicitly, though, it is directly tied to him giving up and not taking care of that. That's what I don't, if I, quote unquote, don't like anything about it.
Right.
It's less that he's fat and more, I just want Thor to be happy.
Everyone wants Thor to be happy. Like, I think I've said this, like, when we did our fucking 3-hour long, like, MCU recap.
Oh, yeah. Like if you want to hear us talk about all of the other MCU movies leading up to Infinity War for, 4 hours total? We did that a year ago. Go back into our feed. Check those episodes out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. So, yes, everyone wants Thor to be happy. That's a given, bro. He's been through a lot. He's lost a lot. Like his whole race of people can fit in a small town where they were a whole planet. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's been rough. But still, I think that yes, his character being able to fulfill his arc, which is essentially just finally be his own person and get out from under like what his father wants for him, or like what he thinks he needs to be, or for his people, or for everything else.
And that has been his arc since the beginning of Thor in the MCU.
Right. And then, so I think also Tony's arc in this whole thing. So everyone has been talking about like, who's that mystery kid? And
that made my head hurts from rolling my eyes so hard at those pieces. I
mean, but it's, if you have, let's say you haven't seen Iron Man 3 in a long time. Also, he looks different. He's near grown up now.
Sure.
So like you would be forgiven if you're like, oh, I forgot that like that kid exists.
I mean, I'm not saying that somebody should be smacked for not knowing. Anyway.
But yeah, my point being that it's easy to think of Peter as Tony's first foray into mentorship.
Yes.
But the first time was when I would say like most of his his like real deep story development started, which was Iron Man 3.
Yes.
Like, we started a little bit with his wrestle with mortality in Iron Man 2, but that was kind of dropped. Once he figured out the new element, they were like, nah, who cares?
Yeah, Nick Fury shows up and it becomes a bit of a different movie.
Right. But in Iron Man 3 is when we really start developing Iron Man as a true character outside of the suit. Like, who is Tony Stark and what does he care about?
Right.
And in that, we get his first proto mentorship with that little kid who he hangs out with in that small town.
Yeah. And yeah, his relationship with Harley really does it establishes an element of Tony's character that, of course, pays off heavily when he meets Peter Parker.
Right. And so we've ultimately been gearing up towards Tony Stark having his own progeny and growing from it. There's the moment when this is post 5 years later, and everyone comes to talk to him about time travel. Another one of these like really intimate moments where everyone's coming to see him and he's like, hey, look, it's probably impossible. I'm really glad to see you guys. Like, he's been so humbled and he's so, like, he's just a person. He's not quipping. He's not hiding who he is behind his own wit. He's just vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there's that moment, just that line where he's like, look, if you're not going to talk shop, you can stay for lunch. Again, really glad to see you. Come in.
Right. And he's happy with the life that he's made for himself.
Yeah.
You know, and for the first time, he's got that stability. He's got that thing to go back to, right? Like, he's had Pepper and he's had friends and stuff, but this is I think what Tony didn't realize he wanted the entire time.
Yeah.
And he can be present for his daughter, and their relationship, man, is so crazy sweet. You know, people are going to be saying I love you 3000 for fucking ever now.
Right.
But it's so wonderful to finally see Tony at peace, to have some semblance of happiness, and to feel not like his every action is guided by his post-traumatic stress.
Right.
And his need to counter one mistake with an even greater mistake.
Mm-hmm. Though I will say that I also, it's a really hard scene to watch. But counter to what Tony becomes is when Tony first gets back on Earth and he's talking to Captain America, and this is basically the first time that they've been face to face since Civil War. And
I do appreciate that I assume a lot of people would go in, and I did to an extent, expecting there to be a big moment where they reconcile, you know, and there really isn't. There are a couple of quieter moments, and I love that about it. We get that wonderful scene later where Tony gives Cap a new shield and basically talks about how, like, resentment is corrosive and he hates it and he doesn't want to be that way anymore.
Yeah.
But we don't get one grand moment of like, we are friends once more and shit. Like, the first time they see each other is he needs to help Tony down the ramp of this ship because Tony is in such bad physical shape.
Right.
And yeah, that scene when they're talking in the kitchen, and not for, like, did Downey actually get that thin, or do you think that was CG?
I think it was CG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because especially if they're filming this all together, I don't think they'd be like, all right, we're going to take like 6 months off for you to get gross and emaciated.
If it was Christian Bale playing Tony Stark, I would
he would have done it.
Yes, he absolutely would have done that. And he's like, all right, I know we got to shoot some scenes at the house tomorrow where I'm supposed to look better, so I'll get there.
And it's just him stuffing bread into his face. He's like, I'll be the correct weight. And they're like, you're supposed to be like muscular.
He shows up with the belly from American Hustle. It's like, this is not, fuck, we'll CG the belly out.
No, we're just gonna make it part of it. He has a dad bod now.
Yep, Tony's gone to seed and whatnot.
Yep. I do like, because we were talking about just kind of going back, that all three, like, as people call the three main Avengers,
or like the Trinity.
Yeah. Captain America, Thor, and Tony are all different ways of like dealing with failure.
Yes.
And they really encapsulate that. Some people come to terms with it. Some people are determined to try to make up for it no matter what. Some people just give up. Like that, those three people encapsulating this one thing in this movie and seeing how they each like find a way to work through it is really interesting.
There's a very lovely scene right after the time jump where Cap is leading a support group like Sam did when Sam was alive. And you also, in that scene, you get Joe Russo as, I believe, the MCU's first explicitly gay character.
Yeah. I was talking to my roommate about this earlier, in that I liked the idea that it was just like a normalized scene of someone being like, yeah, I'm going to date another dude. Fine. I didn't like the victory lap that the Russos were doing, where they're like, look, guys, hey, we made the first LGBT character. Hey, I mean, he doesn't have a name. And he...
Was this something they were doing like at press things?
Like after the... after the movie premiered,
okay,
there were like interviews where they were like, we did it. The 21 movie is 11 years. We did it. We put someone gay in it. Oh, yeah.
I missed all of that. I don't... yes, I totally get why that would be irksome. I tend to not pay too much attention to the press stuff if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't... in context, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I could definitely see... I could see how that might irk you a bit. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I could have also just done with a makeout scene with Maria and Captain Marvel. We could have just done that. Like, they come back together and just smooch real hard.
I want Carol and Valkyrie to date. So does the whole internet, apparently.
I know the internet does.
And I wouldn't have thought that, but once the internet said it, I was like, I didn't even have to think of this on my own. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, but I still just want her to be with Maria.
I know.
So
it'd be nice.
And Valkyrie, I want her to just like sleep with everyone.
Well, Valkyrie's queen now at the end of this movie. Valkyrie rules Asgard. So Valkyrie could pretty much, I think she's got her pick. She could date whoever she wants.
That's true. I want her to have like, I want the next time you see Valkyrie to have like some sweet throne, and there are like dudes and women and like aliens just like hanging around, and she's like, oh, I just finished up. And then
there's like one little alien dude feeding her winged horse off to the side.
Exactly.
So there's still a bunch of things I think we should hit, and I feel like because we gotta get our Valyrian steel swords ready for this battle, we should probably hoof it.
Run through them.
Hoof it, because horses.
I got it.
Horses. That's the intersection between Marvel and Game of Thrones. Horses.
Yep.
And things that fly.
Hell yeah.
And
all right,
blades.
Do it.
All right, man. Okay, so I guess most significantly, and I feel like we will probably be discussing this movie for quite some time to come in one form or another.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to just hit. We talked about Thor's arc. I feel like we need to hit the rest of the core team as quickly as we can. Obviously, we figured going in that this would be Robert Downey Jr.'s final appearance, and they do write out Tony Stark in this movie. He sacrifices himself to use the Infinity Stones to snap Thanos and his army out of existence. Mm-hmm. First of all, how fucking satisfying was it to watch that purple bastard turn to dust?
It's pretty nice.
That was great. And also the way they bring Thanos back into the narrative, that it's his 2014 self that discovers what happens, discovers the whole plan, actually has more knowledge than the present Thanos did.
Yeah.
And that's how they reintroduce him into the plot. I thought was really creative. Mm-hmm. The two Nebulas, I thought Karen Gillan does not get anywhere near as much credit as she should for this role and the dual roles that she plays in this movie.
Yeah.
If you had told me when Guardians came out that Nebula was going to end up being one of the most pivotal characters in this entire dang thing, I would have been surprised a little bit.
Right.
But she was phenomenal. So Tony sacrifices himself. That moment at the very end where Thanos is like, I am inevitable, snaps, nothing. Boom, he's got the stones on his hand, and he defiantly says, I am Iron Man. Boom, snap. It's poetry, dude. It's poetry in motion.
It rhymes.
And of course, yes. Of course, he gets to see his loved ones, his closest loved ones, are there with him in his final moments. It's Rhodey and it's Peter, and of course now Peter having to watch Tony die. And I believe it's the very first time he calls him Tony.
Yeah.
And then of course Pepper getting to be with him and him hearing the things that he needed to hear in his final moments, which is we won. you did it, and we're gonna be okay, and you can rest now. I was a mess. I was a mess way before that, but holy shit, was I a much bigger mess at that point.
Yeah.
The moment where Tony first sees Peter back and just embraces him, I thought was absolutely fucking lovely.
Yeah.
We get this incredibly moving funeral for Tony, where you see that, and again, it's just like, how, I don't know if it's like I'm already crying and I'm starting to cry again while I'm already crying.
Yeah.
When you see his first arc reactor on the float in the lake, the proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
And then you get this long shot that pans down the line of all of the people, all of the remaining heroes, everybody that had a personal relationship with Tony, their lives were directly touched by him. You see pretty much everybody go,
and the mystery kid,
right? And Harley and William Hurt, who got paid however much to stand basically in the background of a shot.
Yeah.
And then you pan up, and finally, of course, you see Nick Fury back standing there, of course, to send off Tony, looking down the line of people, being like, I'm gonna hijack that little kid's summer vacation. Fuck it. But also Cap's story as well. But so yes, I feel like it was a perfect way to write out Downey and write out Tony Stark. I felt like it was a very nice, fitting tribute to where it all started at the end, having everybody come together to mourn him.
Yeah.
Cap's story fucked me up emotionally so intensely. Everything to do with Captain America in these movies has always, in my opinion, been wonderful and incredibly successful.
Yeah.
There are a lot of wonderful callbacks to other movies, both in individual lines or setups. Of course, with the exception of the first Captain America, the Russos directed the other two, directed Infinity War. Marcus and McFeely wrote all three Captain America movies.
Yeah.
So it's great that we can pick up on stuff that they put in place to begin with. When, of course, the elevator, when they go back into the past, they recreate the elevator sequence from Winter Soldier. It's all of the same actors plus Jasper Sitwell.
Yeah.
But he's trying to figure out how to get that scepter out of there. And of course, you assume we're going to go back to fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And motherfucker leans in. He's just like, Hail Hydra. And of course, the whole theater goes fucking ape shit. It's genius. And of course, is also, I think, a sly nod to the relatively recent Secret Empire storyline, which made a whole bunch of people irrationally grumpy a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Brilliant choice. Also, speaking of Winter Soldier tie-ins, they got Robert Redford to come back for this, which is out of my fucking mind, crazy, because Robert Redford's retired. And they were able to get him to come back for Avengers Endgame, which, like, how fucking wild is it that it's entirely probable at this point that the last film credit in the storied decades-long career of Robert Redford is going to be Avengers Endgame.
That's amazing.
Fucking wild.
You could say it's his Endgame.
I could, but I wouldn't.
I did it.
So the way they resolve Cap's story, which is they have to go back and put all of the Infinity Stones back where they were so that fractured timelines don't mess with reality, right? Because their version of time travel is going back and changing the past won't change the future. It will essentially create an alternate timeline.
Right.
So he goes and he puts all the stones back, but he decides that he finally wants his life. And he decides to stay in the past with Peggy. And he appears again in the present as an old man. Yeah. And he passes the shield on to Falcon, which I think is just so fucking wonderful.
Yeah.
And they make it clear that he talked this over with Bucky ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I love at the very, very end of the movie, I absolutely fucking love Falcon sees the ring. And he asked Steve, are you going to tell me about her? And Steve just small little wry smile, and he looks out at the lake and he says, no, I don't think I will. And it's so fucking beautiful to me that not only does Steve Rogers finally get to live his life with the love of his life, but he finally gets to have something that's just for him.
Yeah.
And we end the movie in the past on a shot of Steve and Peggy finally having their dance. I'm going to cry right now. It's beautiful and it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking perfect. And it's a perfect way to end the movie. There's only there's a couple other characters, but their arcs are tied pretty closely together that I feel like we should hit before we wrap. That is, of course, Natasha and Clint. And Natasha is the first major death of an Avenger in this movie. I don't know about you. I did not see that coming at all.
I didn't. Well, I saw it going, I guess, one of three ways. Like, I assumed that either, because the requirement was that you give up the thing that you love the most.
So were you thinking, because I had the thought too, at first, I was like, oh, are they going to do like Clint already lost everything that he loved, and so they're going to use that to loophole that shit?
Right. So yeah, I figured either it was be that, or they both jump off at the same time, and they're rewarded for it, or they do what ends up happening is they both fight to sacrifice themselves for each other.
It's a wonderful sequence of reversals, and it feels so completely rooted in character and their relationship with each other.
Yeah, and like you get that ultimately it had to be Black Widow because one, she has less ties to people, and we started the movie with Clint losing his family, and his whole arc is about getting his family back. So it'd suck if like he killed himself and then his family came back and was like, "Where's Daddy?" And she's like, "Oh, fuck, I let him die."
Well,
yeah,
yes, and it is a perfect, tragic of course, but a perfect resolution to Black Widow's arc across all of these movies.
Right.
Because with the exception of Iron Man 2, when she was introduced, every appearance of Natasha Romanoff in these movies has been laying the groundwork for a payoff like this. When we re-meet her in Avengers, a big part of what's driving her is she's got red in her ledger, right? She was made to, and they follow up on this and delve into it a bit deeper in Age of Ultron, which, by the way, is a movie that is so much better than it gets credit for.
Yeah.
Not for nothing, man. The stuff with Clint's family that pays off so spectacularly in this movie, that was all stuff Whedon had to fight super hard to keep in Ultron, which is just a wild thought. But she was made to be a perfect assassin and nothing more than that. She literally refers to herself as a monster in that movie. Barton was sent to kill her and made another choice and was the first person to show her that she could be more. Mm-hmm. And eventually she found S.H.I.E.L.D. and through S.H.I.E.L.D. found the Avengers. And that finally gave her a family. It gave her a purpose. It gave her a sense of identity beyond just being a killer. It gave her the opportunity to be good and do good, finally. And so her arc resolving with her ultimately making the ultimate sacrifice for her team, for her friends, and for the universe. It's sort of the ultimate point, the pinnacle of where that arc can go. And of course, the man who first showed her that she could be more than what she was gets to go home to his family.
Right.
First time I watched the movie, this sequence definitely made me cry, but I was half in shock at what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Second time, I just fucking cried. Also, of course, it very directly mirrors Gamora's death in Infinity War in terms of both shot composition and music. But because of that, now I keep picturing Red Skull just like having that music queued up on an iPod ready to hit play for anybody that actually makes the fucking sacrifice.
Right.
Like he's watching the reversals being like, ooh, who's it going to be? And then he sees her drop and he's like, oh shit, iPod, and runs over and hits it and whatnot.
Right, of course.
But yes, Hawkeye does get to go home to his family ultimately. There is so much more to talk about, and I know we don't have time. At a certain point, I'm going to end up tagging up on this conversation with you and with a bunch of other people. There are characters that we didn't even mention. There are big sequences we didn't mention. Cap fighting himself is amazing. When 2012 Cap is like, I can do this all day, and Steve's like, yeah, I know. It's fucking awesome. America's ass. Like this movie is going to be quoted extensively forever.
Right.
Little moments that pay off little things from previous movies, like when everybody gets undusted. Wasp. The Cap gives him an order, and she's like, we got a Cap, and she and Scott have that little look because she was always giving him shit about calling him Cap and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Things like that, absolutely wonderful. There was so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
At some point, maybe even on this show, I'll make you talk about it some more. But for now, like I know we got a battle to get to and whatnot.
Yeah. What did you guys think at home? Let us know on Missing Outcast, MISSINGOUTCAST. Yeah, give us your favorite moments from Endgame. Let us know things you liked. Let us know your favorite character arcs, things of that sort. Keep the conversation going, guys. Let us know.
Oh yeah, and by the way, does this mean Thor is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
I mean, it sounds like it.
He brought a bag.
That's true. Unless they're like, all right, you smell, we got to get you off. But that would be nice.
Right, like Professor Hulk, we didn't even really talk about. Like, finally, Banner gets to just enjoy himself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody's already memeing that rat that accidentally lets Scott out of the quantum realm. Like, the rat is the real hero of Avengers Endgame and whatnot.
It's true.
It's kind of true. I really dig Captain Marvel's haircut.
Yes, it was nice.
Some good haircuts in this movie. A lot of people knocking Hawkeye's haircut, and I'm like, you're just mad because you couldn't pull that off.
Yeah, no, it was hot. It was hot. It was hot. It made him a hot guy.
Terrible.
Okay, I'm done. Lex, where can people talk to you about Endgame?
Oh, I'm looking for anybody and everybody who wants to talk about Endgame. Talk to me on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
And you can find me at Tauri J, TAURI, Again, you can hit up this podcast at Missing Outcast, MISSINGOUTCAST. And make sure to tune in tomorrow.
We'll be talking about the real Avengers Endgame.
Hell yeah, which is Howard the Duck from 1986.
Hey, you know how it ends now. We're going to go all the way back to where it began.
Hell yeah.
It's the first Marvel Comics big screen adaptation.
It's true. So make sure you tune in. Until then, we will see you tomorrow. Bye.